Hello and welcome to Motown Sentimeter. I'm Parikshit Luthra. India's top automotive companies, leading component manufacturers and dealers held brainstorming sessions with top government ministers and bureaucrats this week. The focus was on rising costs, pandemic impact on demand, semiconductor and supply chain issues, and electric vehicle adoption. Here are the top highlights. Auto dealers told OEMs that their relationship needs to be based on trust and respect. Dealers also told the government that needs to be a cushion to protect them from sudden exits by multinational manufacturers from the country. Industry veterans R.C. Bhargav and Venu Srinivasan reminded the government that the auto sector's role in India's growth had not been recognized. They said that high taxes and regulatory costs had affected vehicle affordability. Revenue Secretary Tarun Bajaj ruled out any rate cut but asked for more data on reasons for decline in growth. The ever-growing EV bandwagon, that was another theme at the conclave. Concerns were raised on lack of adequate charging infrastructure in India. Petroleum Secretary Tarun Kapur said that EV chargers would be set up in 50,000 out of 75,000 fuel stations in the next few years. Niti Aayog CEO Amitabh Kant told the auto industry that if established players don't take a lead in EVs, startups would leave them behind. Let's not waste any time and go across to our guests. We're joined by industry stalwarts. Vipin Sondhi, the Vice President of industry body SIAM and the MD of Ashok Leyland. Sanjay Kapur, the incoming President of the Automotive Component Manufacturers Association and the Chairman of Sona Comstar. Also with us, Vinkesh Gulati, the President of Federation of Automobile Dealers. Mr. Sondhi, if I can begin with you. There was a lot of concern among the industry over the structural slowdown that the auto sector has been going through. And industry veterans like R.C. Bhargav, Venu Srinivasan, they highlighted the increasing pressure on cost due to taxes, due to regulatory measures as well. Going forward, what would be your key recommendations on the behalf of SIAM to the government in order to revive the auto industry?
Thank you, Parikshit, and hello to the viewers. So first, let me highlight what the challenges are which the industry has been facing. One, of course, is the pandemic itself. The second, you've mentioned it, the global shortage of semiconductors, rising commodity prices, the upcoming fuel efficiency and BS6 Phase 2 regulations, the shortage of shipping containers, and restrictions of exports. And of course, when we look at this, all of them virtually coming together. Really, industry and government have to work together. And industry has a role to play, and we seek support from the government as well. First, the industry itself needs to move towards Atmanirbhar Bharat. As an industry, we're already looking at a 15 to 20% further localization in the next 2 to 5 years. And we've prepared a detailed roadmap on which we are in discussion with the government. How do we increase localization content? And how does the government create an enabling ecosystem to attract global investments from companies for setting up manufacturing bases in India so that they're part of India's automobile supply chain? We need to reconsider our entire supply chain and bring it closer home, closer to India. There's a need for a clear long-term regulatory roadmap as well, and SIAM has prepared an approach paper, and again we will be discussing this with the government. New powertrain technologies to meet requirements both from a societal standpoint and from the fact that we need to conserve foreign exchange. Government, as you know, has announced a fitness-based scrappage policy, which was announced by the Honorable Prime Minister a few days ago, which will be a very strong enabler for growth in this industry. The necessary infrastructure needs to come up fast for early implementation of this policy. And then the industry looks forward to the details of the production-linked incentive scheme, the PLI, and that would also provide a good impetus to the auto industry. So it is together, costs are going up, and we need to find solutions to enhance demand to mitigate the cost and build scale. Back to you, Parikshit.
All right. Mr. Kapur, if I may ask you about semiconductor shortages. This is something that was also discussed over the last 2 to 3 days. It's affecting vehicle availability in the market. It's affecting production. It's affecting component manufacturers as well. What would be your visibility? Do you get a sense that this problem is going to continue maybe well into 2023?
Parikshit, that's a great question. And as we see it now, I don't think anyone can predict anything. However, as we see the problem, we definitely see a problem this year and probably most of next year. The fact remains that the automotive industry as a whole is only 7% of buying of the semiconductor industry. In fact, we're so far away from the in the supply chain that we actually buy from distributors and not even from manufacturers. And I think we have to look at putting up capacity, more capacity. During the lockdown, a lot of the capacity got diverted to other electronics, and this has definitely impacted the semiconductor supply chain. The fact that more semiconductors and more chips are going into vehicles now has also impacted the entire supply chain, and as far as this chip shortage is concerned. It's definitely a big problem,
Right.
and I see this problem probably going into other industries as well if this continues. I think it's time for us to look at more capacity being installed. Tata Group has announced something. I hope that they can go forward with that. I know that the government in the past has looked at semiconductor manufacturing and whether it's digital or analog, and we need to sit down and discuss those issues. However, this is a problem, and it will definitely impact the industry in terms of supply from the supply side. However, we're a resilient industry, and I know we'll find a solution whether OEMs start using fewer semiconductor chips in their vehicles, and we'll find a solution around it and hopefully overcome this problem. At this point, I can't exactly tell you when this problem will get resolved. However, we are seeing a problem in this aspect, this area.
Okay. Mr. Gulati, coming to you, the recent CCI order on Maruti Suzuki slapping a 200 crore penalty on them for a discount control policy, not allowing dealers to give a discount beyond a point. The CCI said that customers have been deprived of the right price or the best price for a product. Keeping that order in mind, what has been your recommendation to auto OEMs? There have been exits, the likes of GM, the likes of Harley-Davidson, which the dealer community has spoken about. You also sought protection from the government, from the Heavy Industries Minister. Your key concerns there?
So, hi, Parikshit. Thanks for having me over. So, starting with the CCI matter, so it was a totally different matter with the context, and it had been overblown. See, obviously, the customer has the option of going to various dealerships and negotiating, and that is their right. But on the dealer side, we also have to see how to be viable and be in the system also. So it's a very fine balance between restricting discount and controlling discount. So I'm yet to go through the full order from the CCI and then react on that. But additional to that, like you said, see, the current situation of the dealers is still very challenging. You have named one of the main exit of India, which is the GM. But there have been a lot of exits which have created a problem for the small entrepreneurs of India. So, and latest what has happened, an electric vehicle two-wheeler assembler started giving dealerships 2 years back. They supplied some vehicle which was not up to the mark. The dealers fought them. The vehicle went back, and again that has come to the dealers, and again the same problem is happening. So now the dealers are saying that they entered the EV push, the government's EV push and the environment-free thing, but there the amount what they have invested in the dealership is now on a toss. So crores of rupees like this goes down on train, and a major thing is the entrepreneur's process or the vision to get in the business again is also killed. So overall, that is what we had requested the heavy minister during our conclave just 2 days back, that heavy ministry comes up with a policy, a process where an entry to an heavy and a factory is required to go through these processes. So without restricting them exiting, which means if the business are on loss, they'll have to shut down any day. But then whenever they exit, they have to take care about the vehicles they have already sold in the market, their services, because a vehicle is registered for at least 15 years. So the running of that vehicle, the service support is their responsibility. And obviously the dealers, the small entrepreneurs who have invested on them, on their commitment that this kind of sale will be seen and the future is there, they spend around something, a crore to 10 crore. That is also their responsibility to cover up and then only exit from it. This is a business. Anybody can come and go. So that's it. Heavy Minister Mr. Pandey was very, very positive towards that, and he has instructed his team to work on it and plan something.
All right. I just want to speak about semiconductor issues as well. Supply chain challenges also include container shortages, Mr. Sondhi. How is a semiconductor shortage impacting manufacturing right now? Exports?
Parikshit, we've lost you. Can you hear me?
Mr. Sondhi, can you hear me?
Yeah, I can now. Sorry. Yeah, sorry. Semiconductors I heard, containers I heard. Anything else?
So, Mr. Sondhi, how has this entire semiconductor shortage impacted manufacturing right now? And how has the impact been on exports?
Well, at the end of the day, and Sanjay elaborated on that, we are very closely working as an industry with our supply chain, which either gives it as an assembled part or directly, almost on a weekly, sometimes on a daily basis. And this is because the supply chain has become so fragile that any event that took place, whether it was a snowstorm in Texas, or whether it's COVID in Malaysia and repeated, or anything else, just disrupts the supply chain. The important thing is that one, can we create options? And this takes time to create options, but the world supply of semiconductors by itself is limited. So even if you create some option or a second option, it's still going to be a challenge. And it's going to be a challenge for 22 and as somebody mentioned, early 23. Now, how is semiconductors impacted exports? That depends on how you decide to distribute your production and sales volumes. But the exports part comes to a shortage of containers. I think that's what perhaps you alluded to. And I think it's necessary for us for allocation of additional containers for India, because a realignment of shipping routes. We've also requested that clearance from ports needs to be expedited so that both ships and goods are not held for long. Shipping freight rates have been increasing by hundreds of percentage and have reached such levels where our members have been finding it difficult for sustaining normal trade operations. So what we've done is we've tried to get the intervention of the shipping ministry. Discussions have happened with shipping liners for increasing the availability. And we sincerely hope that the shortage is temporary as global trade normalizes. But right now, there certainly is a challenge to get containers. And if you get it at astronomical rates.
Right. We're going to take a short break at this point, but we are also going to ask how the semiconductor shortage is impacting capacity utilization and job cuts. This is also going to be a major issue, and the use of ethanol fuels that the government is pushing. How is the auto industry gearing up for that? We're going to take a short break. Lots more on the other side. Don't go anywhere. Welcome back. We are discussing major challenges for the auto sector. These were highlighted at the FADA, SIAM and ACMA conventions this week. And Mr. Sunjay Kapur, if I can ask you about the semiconductor shortage once again, give us a sense of the capacity utilization currently. And because of the chip shortage, have you also had to lay off people? As the head of ACMA, do you believe that there have been job cuts in the industry because of the semiconductor shortage and lower production levels?
Sorry, Parikshit, not at the moment. And I said this to you earlier also. We've been a very resilient industry, and we will find a way out of this. At the moment, the semiconductor, as Mr. Sondhi said, rightly, it's very dependent on which OEM you're working with. Some OEMs, use more semiconductors, and therefore production in those areas has dropped. Some use fewer semiconductors, and production continues. On an overall basis, it's a very staggered approach in terms of where the production will drop and will not. And we're going to have to just wait and watch and see what it looks like. Schedules have definitely come down for some OEMs, whilst some continue to hold on, by making different sort of platforms in terms of different alterations, maybe cars that use fewer or vehicles that use fewer semiconductors. Then you look at the tractor industry, especially as far as India is concerned, there is no challenge when it comes to tractor industry. So that's growing strong, from the OEM perspective. So, we're not seeing any job cuts at this point in time. And of course, as Mr. Sondhi pointed out rightly, there is a huge issue with regard to logistics as well. Container costs, shipping costs have gone from $2,000 to $12,000 a ton, which is, ridiculously expensive. And that's another challenge that we're, trying to overcome through different measures.
Okay. All right. Coming to festive sales, Mr. Gulati, if I'd like to ask you, how have the retail trends been for the month of August? And at the FADA convention, we were getting a sense that different OEMs, because of the semiconductor shortage, have reduced billing levels for automotive dealers. Could you give us some sense on that?
So, Parikshit, yes, you are right. The semiconductor is hitting the passenger vehicle segment a lot. And frankly, that is the one segment which is seeing month on month and year on year growth for the past 2-3 months. And it was the second segment after tractor to come out of woods, even after the COVID situation. The current messages what we are getting from all dealers is approximately 30% cut has been informed to dealers from different OEMs as compared to the basic plan what was shared in the first 2 days or 3 days of the month start. So that is what we are looking at. But normally what we have seen, the retail and the billing, both the things are skewed towards the month end. And the month last week has just started. So, and the messages what we are getting from the manufacturers are not very positive. So the original message which we got of 30%, we'll be happy if we get just that 30% less of production and not more, which is currently looking at. Because as of now, if I talk of the car industry, the waiting period is increasing. And normally when the supply is less than the demand, the dealers are always happy because that is the best time we are viable and manageable. But as of today, the kind of delay it is happening for the past some months, and the uncertainty for future is where we are losing pace in front of the customer. And that is what is not a very positive momentum at the dealership.
Right. On a sequential basis, how are August numbers?
So August month, for the passenger vehicle segment, is automatically positive still. But I told you the skew of retail happens in the last week. And one thing for August positive was that we entered August with a 30 days of stock. That has helped us a lot. So, but while we end August, I am not confident that the similar kind of inventory will continue for September. So September is where I'm looking at, even with demand and customers waiting in, our month on month and year on year both will be down, which luckily as of today, if I talk of month on month and year on year, passenger vehicle is seeing a good growth.
Okay. Just coming back to you, Mr. Vipin Sondhi, on RODTEP, this was a key demand for the auto sector, asking the government to notify rates as soon as possible. But are you asking for a rate revision? What is the kind of rate that the auto sector, especially auto OEMs, would want from the government?
First of all, I think we must thank the government for announcing the much-awaited RODTEP rates for automobiles and spare parts. It ended months of uncertainty since the MEIS scheme was withdrawn with effect from the 1st January 2021, as you know, Parikshit. The rates for the auto industry are in the range of 0.6 to 1.5%, compared to the range of 2 to 4% which our members have indicated that they are incurring on various items. However, there's also a per unit cap on the rates for some of the items, which we understand is due to a limited budget available for RODTEP. So we are in the process of reviewing the details of the rates that have been announced and what could be the specific recommendations of SIAM. And we'll continue to engage with the RODTEP committee to ensure that our members are not exporting taxes and making India made automobiles or make in India automobiles less competitive in the overseas markets. So I think this is work in progress, but rates have been announced lower than what MEIS rates were.
So roughly, Mr. Sondhi, what is the increase in rate that you would be looking for on an average?
So if you look at, as I mentioned, the range was 2 to 4%, which members have indicated they're incurring. So it's important we get all the data so that we can go back with the data to the government to have a look and how do we bridge this gap between 0.6 to 1.5 and 2 to 4.
Okay. Same question to you, Mr. Sunjay Kapur. From a components point of view, it seems that the industry was not happy with the rates. From a components point of view, what is the rate that you would ask the government for?
So, Parikshit, my answer is very similar to Mr. Sondhi. I think, we had the MEIS rate and we have the RODTEP rate. And, if it was similar, it would be closer to that rate would be better. We will make representations. We're happy that, as Mr. Sondhi said, that, the uncertainty is gone. At least we have some clarity on that. Further to that, we're also very eagerly awaiting the PLI scheme, which hopefully will get announced soon. We're happy that the battery ACC PLI scheme was announced, which is definitely a positive. We're hoping for the automotive and auto component PLI scheme to be announced too. So I think, let's wait and see what happens with that.
Right. Mr. Sondhi, on the use of ethanol, the government was very clear that there will be higher blends of ethanol. There will be E20 by 2025, and you'll also have flexi-fuel vehicles. So how is the industry planning to adapt to these different blends? Any key asks from the government on the roadmap for alternate fuels?
In the kind of roadmap announced by the Prime Minister, the auto industry will align the introduction of vehicles compliant to higher blends of ethanol, including E10 and E20. Now, it's always advisable to proceed in steps. First, we should have E10 fuels and commensurate vehicles pan-India, because vehicles move around. So it's important to have dispensing available pan-India, and then move to E20 blends. And once E20 is stabilized across the country, we should then look at introducing flex fuel vehicles. So yes, there should be a roadmap. Dispensing and technology must work hand in hand. We're working with the Ministry of Petroleum to see how we can do it. It is important, obviously, from the point of view that it creates opportunities for farmers, and it also reduces very precious foreign exchange. So the industry will work, but our only request is let's have a roadmap that is consistent with industry and the Ministry of Petroleum to move finally towards flex fuels.
All right, so let's have a consistent roadmap. That is what you're asking. And of course, the semiconductor problem will continue to play spoilsport in the coming few months, especially in the festive season. We'll leave it at that. We've completely run out of time, but I'd like to thank Mr. Vipin Sondhi, Sunjay Kapur and Vinkesh Gulati for joining us and giving us a sense of how the headwinds are going to impact the auto sector in the near, medium and long term. Thank you so much for watching. Goodbye.